Hello and welcome back to another FPL transfer tips video. We have reached the first blank game week of the season. It is game week 29 where we have 4 teams who will be blanking. That is Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa and Crystal Palace. Now in this video we are going to focus mainly on the out with those 4 teams. We do have a couple of players, I think actually only one, and that is Mohamed Salah in this video. We are just going to focus on good players to buy. Again, if you are making transfers this week, that means you're not going to be using your free hit, so obviously kind of basing it around that strategy and seeing what's going to be best. Last week obviously we only picked 4 players. It was a pretty tough week to go off of with this blank coming up. It was a mixed bag with Munoz and Robinson being our 2 successes and Szoboszlai and Isak being our 2 fails. Again, like I said, a lot of these were very, strategy dependent. The likes of Munoz and Szoboszlai wouldn't have been buys if you were, for example, not using your free hit this week, which I imagine most of you are if you are going to be watching this video. So we've got 6 more players today. Let's go and take a look at them. So we're starting off the video with someone who has finally came into some good form. He has picked up a 10-pointer, 10-pointer and 9-pointer in his last 3 matches, and he has a really nice fixture for game week 29. He's playing against Leicester away from home, and he is by far the best attacking asset you can get from Man United, and Man United are probably looking like one of the better teams to target for this week's games. He's only 8.4 million, which is pretty ideal, again, if you're selling some of your premiums. Obviously a lot of people are selling off Salah and Palmer this week, 2 players that will be in this video later on. He has a really nice cheap option to free up some budget if you want to maybe go for like an Erling Haaland, but he's been transferred in almost 250,000 times, and he is looking like a really good pick for game week 29. Again, if you are watching this video not using the free hit, you're probably going to be using your wildcard in 2 game weeks time, which means if you're bringing in Bruno this week, you're getting the Leicester game and the Nottingham Forest game, which I don't think is going to be the best fixture ever for him. So if we're being totally honest, it's probably like a 1 game week punt kind of thing with Bruno this week. If you are keeping longer term, it's maybe not such a good idea. Again, Man City is coming up and there's a couple of difficult fixtures for Man United. So again, on a free hit, Bruno looks like one of the best options you can go for in midfield. But if you're looking for a longer term move, maybe if you're saving your wild card till maybe, game week 34, this probably isn't the best transfer for you. But this week alone, he is looking like a really nice punt with Leicester. Next up, we've got a player who, again, is similar to Bruno and has been on really good form for the last 3 weeks, supplying 3 returns in his last 3 games. 5.5 million, it's Joao Pedro. Now, I am going to list him down as an avoid because he is one of those players that is very hot and cold. Again, kind of similar to Bruno, but the difference is he has a very tough fixture this week against Manchester City away from home. So personally, I just think there's a lot of better options that you can go for up front. Again, we had our free hit video yesterday in which we looked at, about 6 strikers that you could potentially be looking at. Joao Pedro was involved in that and he wasn't really anywhere near any of the other guys. If you are looking for strikers to bring in, Chris Wood, Wissa, and even Beto is a pretty decent option if you don't want to go for Haaland, but I think you could easily go with 2 up front in game week 29, and I definitely wouldn't be looking to bring in Joao Pedro for a match against Manchester City. Again, like I said, it is a tough one. He's very hot and cold, very on and off a lot of the time. Obviously he does take the penalties as well, and he is a nice cheap option. But for me, I think with his fixtures, they're just not really too great. Again, even looking at the longer term, Villa and Palace isn't the best fixtures in the world for a striker. So personally, just basing it off this week alone, I'd be looking to avoid them. Now, we did just mention his name, but Chris Wood, of course, is going to be a buy this week. I think he is probably the best striker you can get for game week 29, and he is definitely going to be in consideration for captaincy and probably will be captained by quite a lot of players this week. He's been transferred in almost 200,000 times so far already, and again, like I said, not using the free hit this week. You're probably going to be using the wild card in 2 or so weeks time, but even if you were going to keep him longer term, Forest have really nice fixtures for the foreseeable future. Mainly looking at this week though, against Ipswich, he has a really good game, and as I said, definitely a consideration for captaincy. And then next week, which will be a lot of people's final weeks before wildcarding, Man United at home is also a really nice fixture for him. We can pull up Wood's stats, and again you can see the nice fixture run for Nottingham Forest along the bottom, but mainly Chris Wood has been known for someone who has been overperforming his XG this season, and when you actually look at his stats over the last couple of games, he's actually been right up there for expected goal involvements. From the last 5 matches from forwards, he's only behind Mateta for expected goal involvement, so he has, been really amping that up. He clearly getting a lot more chances. When it comes to points as well, he's sitting in second over the last 5 matches, and of course that match against Ipswich, they are in the bottom 5 for expected goals conceded. If you do want to look more long term, I say long term, to next week, Manchester United at home. Man United are also the 5th worst team in the league for expected goals conceded, so if you're looking for a 2-week punt and you're wildcarding in game week 31, Chris Wood's definitely a priority transfer because he looks brilliant, and of course you can keep him longer than that on your wildcard if you want to try and build some value quite early on. We've got Cole Palmer up next, and he has been someone who has been making this video very often recently because he has been transferred out quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, but he has had really nice fixtures, so he has made the keep section for the past couple of weeks. However, this week I think it is about time that you could definitely consider selling him. Of course, it would be a privileged transfer, it would be a very luxury move because he obviously does play this week. A lot of people will be making transfers taking out players who don't play in game week 29. Palmer obviously has that match against Arsenal away from home. His stats are still really good. I'm not going to show them on screen because you basically know that he has been the 2nd best for expected goals, expected goal involvements, only behind Mohamed Salah throughout the course of this season. However, games against Southampton at home and Leicester at home are the 2 matches where you really expect him to do something. And again, while he did put good underlying stats on the table, he's just not getting the returns, and the fixtures are gone for him at this point. He's got Arsenal away, Spurs at home and Brentford away, which are going to be difficult fixtures, especially now with Spurs having their defence back. I do expect them to be a lot more solid. I think at this point you could definitely consider selling Cole Palmer and not really feel too guilty about it. At this point, over 200,000 people this week have felt the same, and again, like I said, definitely a bit of a luxury move. You can definitely move him on to try and fund Erling Haaland if you wanted to bring him in this week, but definitely think it is something that you can consider and not feel too bad about selling him this week. For our 5th player, we have Morgan Gibbs-White, and he is going to be another avoid this week. I think ideally he is probably the 2nd best Nottingham Forest attacker that you can get. However, I just don't really think he is the best option to go for in midfield, on a longer term kind of move. The midfielders have been a very prestigious position so far this season, and I don't think long term Gibbs-White is going to really fulfill that, and I don't even think the Ipswich fixture is going to be fantastic for him either. He is due to rise in price this week, and of course he does still have the same fixtures as Chris Wood. Ipswich and Man United are pretty decent on paper, again when looking at the expected goals conceded. The problem with Gibbs-White is his underlying stats and even his points alone haven't actually been too great. I can pull up the FPL page on screen now, and you can see the expected goal involvements from him throughout his last however many games just haven't really been too great, and even when you're looking at the points, they're not really fulfilling you with too much hope to the point that you would definitely want to be trying to get him in this week. Again, transfers are very luxury at this point with so many doubles and blanks coming up over the next couple of weeks. You don't want to be wasting any transfers, and I do think even if Gibbs-White was to go in blank this week, you would be stuck with him and be looking to try to take him out as soon as possible. That's just my opinion on it. I don't really think he is the best option to go for. He's not an explosive midfielder who's going to pick up 2-3 goals every match. So for me, I think I'd be saving the transfer and looking elsewhere. I think if you do want another Forest player, a triple up on Forest, I'd be looking more at the defenders who are going to be good long-term holds, and you're going to get points, clean sheets from those guys, and you can rely on them a lot more than a Morgan Gibbs-White, for example. And we're ending off the video with Mohamed Salah, who I am so surprised to see is going to be dropping in price tomorrow. He has 127,000 transfers out this week, and it just, to me, seems absolute madness. He has obviously got his record-breaking FPL season. He's broke his previous record 4 points in an FPL season, and it's not even as if there's a really tough schedule coming up for him. They're now out of the Champions League, so it's just full commitment on the Premier League. Obviously no match this week, but after that, really good fixtures for Liverpool. Obviously Everton at home. People are selling Salah ahead of Everton at home. Fulham away is still a decent enough fixture for someone like Salah. Obviously the majority of the game, it doesn't look like that great of a fixture, but Salah, who's only blanked, I want to say 5 times so far this season, could very easily pick up a big haul against Fulham. Now, there is obviously the argument for a lot of people that selling Salah allows you to bring in Haaland for this week. Again, I think you could do the same with Cole Palmer, and if you can afford Haaland that way, then definitely do that instead, of course. But again, looking at the captaincy, that is what seems to be a big reason for a lot of people selling Salah, is that they're not going to captain him for the next couple of weeks, for the foreseeable future. So we're looking at captaincies here with Salah in your team and without Salah in your team. Imagine the fact that if you do have Salah, you probably can't afford Haaland. That's basically what I'm basing this off of, which means this week your captain is likely going to be someone like Chris Wood, maybe a Kluivert, where obviously if you take Salah out, you're going to have Haaland against Brighton. Personally, I think Chris Wood is more than a good enough captain against Ipswich, to the point that I get to keep Mohamed Salah in my team. Of course, everyone's basically had him for the whole season, so you've built up that value for Mohamed Salah as well, which is going to be about $1 million to $1.5 million. So if you're selling him and you want him back, at that point you're probably going to be paying between an extra $500,000 and $1 million on top of your entire budget to get Mohamed Salah back after you sell him. Now, game week 30, obviously Haaland captainers. If you're not get Salah, you're going to have Leicester at home, but Salah also has Everton at home in that match, where again I would probably back Salah to do better, just because he's been on fantastic form this season, and Haaland has been very hit or miss. I do think Haaland is definitely capable of getting a goal, maybe 2 goals, but so is Salah at that point, and of course Salah gets the extra points being a midfielder, and of course gets assists as well as the goals, which Haaland doesn't normally get. Now after that, we do have, that's where we start to get into the double game weeks. Salah doesn't look like he's going to have any double game weeks for the remainder of the season. So game week 31, whether you have Salah or you don't, you're going to be captaining Isak against Leicester away from home. However, Salah does still have that match. Again, I've got them in the smaller fixtures, just on the right hand side of the left side of the table. Salah has Fulham away from home. Now, even if I'm not going to be captaining him, I still want him for that match, because he's still capable of getting a goal or two, and definitely want to have him in my team. Game week 32, you've got the double. Again, Isak is the obvious captain, but Salah is still playing at home to West Ham, to the point where I definitely would want to own him still, and that's kind of just the bottom line. Whether you're going to captain him or not, he's still got great fixtures. He's got Leicester away in game week 33 as well. I do have Saka as a captain, assuming that he is back by that point. Well, we can obviously wait and see with that one, but again, whether you're on a free hit or not in game week 33, Salah has Leicester. You want him for that fixture, whether it's a double game week or not. And then game week 34, non-Salah owners are going to have Isak as their captaincy with Ipswich at home. If you own Salah, you can obviously do the same. Most people with Salah do still have Isak, but you've also got the option of having Salah against Spurs, where he can easily get some goals as well, because he's got a fantastic record against the top 6 so far this season, and he's definitely capable of being a captaincy, and you can easily own both of them. So for me, it just seems very silly not to have Salah in your team for the upcoming matches, with them having great fixtures, whether they have doubles or not. It just seems absolutely mad to me. So this is how the transfer tips line up for this week's video. Let me know what you think of them down in the comment section below. We've got 6 players this week, 2 buys, Bruno and Wood, 1 sell in Cole Palmer, 1 keep in Mohamed Salah, and 2 avoids in Morgan, Gibbs-White and Joao Pedro. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like I said. Make sure to leave a comment if you agree or disagree, mainly on the Salah thing. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on whether to keep or sell Mohamed Salah. And yeah, Yeah, because I really do think it is a little bit silly to be selling him at this point, because it's not like he's dropping off in form either, and he's easily the best player FPL literally has ever seen after breaking the all-time points record. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.